Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Legacy Timber Bridge Design. My name is Julie Ledbetter. I'm the Sales and Marketing Coordinator at York Bridge Concepts. We're a full-service design build firm specializing in vehicular and pedestrian bridges. We focus on longevity, style, and craftsmanship. We have over 7,000 bridges that can be seen in almost all 50 states, as well as the Caribbean islands, Central America, and Europe. We create innovative crossing solutions for any environment. Timber bridges are our passion, and we're very good at it. So before we begin our presentation, I want to point out the Zoom features that we'll be utilizing throughout the webinar to increase your interactive experience. We'll be posting links to articles, projects, and upcoming webinars in the chat, so make sure you check out that little box. There's also a poll question that's currently up right now. We would like to get your feedback on it if you've not already responded. We're going to share the results in just a few minutes. We will also have a second poll question, so pay close attention to the presentation, and you'll see that second one pop up. We'd love to get your feedback on that one as well. You may type a question in the Q&A, and we'll answer that at the end of the presentation. If you would like to participate in discussion at the very end of the webinar, you can also raise your hand and we can unmute your mic so you can participate. But don't worry, there is no video. So we have with us today, Titus Edwards is going to be presenting with me today. Titus, how are you doing?
Hi, Julie. Good to be with you today.
Yep, Titus, he's our lead senior bridge consultant here at York Bridge Concepts, 20-year timber bridge veteran, over 300 plus projects completed and probably thousands more that he's consulted on. So quite an achievement, Titus.
Well, been around for a few days here.
Just a few. Yeah, so we're so excited to have Titus here with us today. So before we actually talk about London Bridge, I'm sure that's piquing your curiosity at this point. We would like to get to the results of our first poll question. Let's see what we have here. How influential are you in the overall vision and concept of the projects you work on? And it's very nice to see that we have a few decision makers here in our presentation joining us today. And we have, looks like many of you are moderately and somewhat influential in the process. 70% of you have some kind of influence and feedback with the visionaries of these projects, to the point where you could probably help them make some decisions when it comes to building a legacy timber bridge. So very nice to see. You can close that poll for me, Seattle. I appreciate it. Thank you. So London Bridge, what does that have to do with today's webinar, Titus? Why are we talking about London Bridge?
You know, Julie, this is a great story. Robert McCullough, back in the early 1960s, bought thousands of acres of land out in the middle of nowhere in the desert of Arizona along Lake Havasu. He was going to make this a tourist area, but he couldn't get anybody interested in coming to the area. He came up with a scheme to buy the old London Bridge. At that point in time, it was already 130 years old, and he did. He purchased it, took it apart, block by block, shipped it to the desert of Arizona, and had it rebuilt. 1,000-foot long, 2-lane vehicular bridge.
Matt, that must have cost millions, a couple of million just to do that. And for what purpose?
Well, the whole idea was to create a unique landmark structure that would bring interest to the development. And you know what? It ended up working. He built a marina, some hotels, the infrastructure, and it ended up becoming the tourist attraction that led people to come out there. And now the city of Lake Havasu, as you see there in the picture on the bottom right, is a thriving city. Over 50,000 people live there, and it has 2 to 3 million tourist visitors every year. It was the bridge that became the landmark that brought the people in.
I mean, so we're talking about probably on the more extreme end of legacy bridge design and building that iconic structure for a development. Probably most of you here are, the top priority is that practical need, but you may be here going, how do I turn that practical need into something that can attract residents, visitors, shoppers, whatever type of development you may have?
You know, Julie, this is a fun webinar to do. The past webinars that we've done have been very technical, as we talked about crossing designs, bridge capacities and loadings. Today, Julie, we're just going to have fun because we're talking about legacy designs. And we're going to talk about the background of the project that led to the design of the bridge, and then a little bit about the design itself. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to look at a lot of beautiful pictures today, Julie.
Yeah, and we want to start with talking about 5 specific reasons why clients come to us and request a legacy timber bridge design for their development. Now, there may be more, but these are the 5 that we really identified. Now, we do have a poll open, so if you want to take a look at the choices there, and I want you guys to really answer this question and really think about probably the most important need on here that you're looking for when it comes to the majority of the projects that you're working on. So we'll leave that poll open for a little while. So the first reason why our clients request a legacy timber bridge design is they're looking for that landmark structure. They have a prominent location where there's a large population, lots of traffic. So they want to make sure that what they put in there makes a statement and gets people interested in what's behind that bridge.
Well, this is our Esplanade Lake Club Bridge, Julie. We work with Taylor Morrison and Waldrop Engineering. Now, this is down in Fort Myers, Florida. They had purchased this land, half of which was a lake, and they wanted to build an upscale residential community. Coming off of Alico Road, this entrance road came in and began the entry into the subdivision. So they wanted something legacy and iconic in design. Now, this resort, Julie, has a California Tuscan flair to it. And so we worked with their landscape architects and developers and came up with a very modern looking bridge that fit the crossing and the need, as well as fit into the theme of the development.
And then those post caps and the specific design features on the handrail really adds that extra aesthetic touch to the project.
You can see definitely a lot of flair. What a landmark structure that they ended up creating for their development.
So the next reason why a client would choose to put a York Legacy Timber Bridge on their project is they need to develop a strong marketing image for their developments. And look, this interesting historical truss design right in front of this very modern museum. What's that all about, Titus?
You know, the Discovery Park of America is in a very small town in western Tennessee. It's in Union City. And this whole museum was the vision of Robert and Jenny Kirkland. He owned a little furniture store downtown, became successful, and gave millions and had the idea to build this museum. Outside the museum is a 50-acre park that's part of it called Heritage Park. And the idea was to pay homage to the old-time Tennessee landscape. And what they have here is a created stream, goes into a lake. There's all kinds of landscaping. There's an old grist mill there. And what they're trying to do is to recreate the feeling and the look of turn-of-the-century Tennessee. And in that behalf, we ended up designing and building 3 pedestrian bridges. One of them, you see in the top right, is a covered timber bridge. Now, I want you to notice the difference in the look of this bridge compared to what you just saw with the Esplanade Lake Club. Esplanade Lake Club, much more upscale, modernistic. This particular bridge, the idea is to recreate the old timber bridge look, Julie. You can see the truss design system that we utilize to make it fit into this beautiful heritage park.
Yes, it's definitely part of the museum itself as a strong marketing image. This is our example, and the bridges themselves are part of the exhibit at the museum. Very nice project.
Beautiful bridges.
And then the next one, the next reason why a client would want a legacy timber bridge is they're looking for that internet and social media attention. As you can see with river lights here, it is 1,000 feet of boardwalk on the Cape Fear River, and as you can see, it's a highly Instagrammable site. And if you actually look on Instagram and look up river lights, you'll see many, many more similar posts of families, dogs, children, really enjoying a stroll through river lights.
I wonder how many times, I'm going to guess it's probably in the millions, that people have taken pictures on our boardwalks here at River Lights and posted them just all over social media. And you can see why. We ended up building beautiful boardwalks and bridges for this residential community. Julie, this is a Newland community in Wilmington, North Carolina. And as you can see in this picture, it's right along the Cape Fear River. Every time I think of the Cape Fear River, Julie, I think of that movie, the Cape Fear movie with Nick Nolte.
Yeah, no, don't remind me of that one.
Jessica Lange, that houseboat in the hurricane, man, exciting. But this is a beautiful stretch of land, 1,400-acre master plan community. And we ended up building a very beautifully designed bridge that fit into it. And most of the boardwalks that we built are in the Marina Village. Now, Marina Village is kind of like the hub of the whole neighborhood, and there's restaurants and shops and cafes all along the boardwalk. And this is where people come and congregate and visit and shop and rest. And they're always just constantly taking these pictures and posting them on our boardwalks. And you can see what a gorgeous design that fits in very well to the Newland theme.
Yes, and if you want to learn more about this project, it's actually in the chat. There's a link there to the actual project. There's actually a crab dock. There's decking up to the restaurant. There's integrated lighting. Of course, you see the pier. There's also a pedestrian bridge that's connected elsewhere on the property, and also a beautiful project as well.
Very water-centric community. Bridges fit in very well there, obviously.
Yeah, so another reason, this is our fourth reason why you would request a legacy timber bridge design, is you really want to generate that community pride and identity. And what better way to generate community pride than to have a gorgeous York legacy covered bridge on your property?
No, a covered bridge makes a landmark statement. And you know, it's very interesting, Julie. I've talked to several of the residents that live in Woodbridge Crossing that have contacted us over the years. This bridge has been there 14, 15 years or something along that line. And they love their bridge. They are so proud of this beautiful covered vehicular bridge that we designed and built there.
Yes, it's a bridge that's really stood the test of time. That's for sure. Probably what, 15 years old, Titus? You sold it back in the day.
Yes, it's about what it is, and you can see it's been well taken care of. This bridge goes over the Nickajack River. Now, this is a 2-lane vehicular bridge. But what's interesting here, Julie, to me, is that this is all part of an old section of Smyrna, Georgia, that's called the Concord Covered Bridge Historic Area. The old Concord Road used to be the main east-west thoroughfare before they built the east-west connector. And they had to go over a old timber covered bridge that was built in 1872. That bridge is still there, just downstream from our bridge. And so when the developer bought this land and built this residential community, he wanted to keep that same covered timber bridge theme. And we ended up building this bridge and honored to be a part of it. And these residents, they just love their bridge. They're constantly walking over it, jogging over it, driving over it. And we just hear great glowing things from them all the time. What a tremendous community pride in this bridge.
And incidentally, we talk about the bridge being 15 years old. This picture was actually taken in 2020. So that tells you a lot about the maintenance and the care that's gone into taking care of this bridge.
Bridge still looks brand new, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So our fifth reason why clients would request a legacy timber bridge design is they need something to fit specifically into an architectural theme of their development or their master planned community. Especially here, we're going down to the Chattahoochee Hills, Georgia, which is southwest of Atlanta, in this lovely master planned community called Serenbe Swan Ridge.
Serenbe is a great story, Julie. Steve Negrin and his wife came from England, and they purchased this land pretty much out in the middle of nowhere at the time and built a beautiful residential subdivision called Serenbe. Now, Serenbe has all different parts to it. And what you're seeing here is a boardwalk that we built in the Swan Ridge neighborhood. Now, we were honored to work with the architects, Robert Pulliam and Eddie Reinhardt, and they designed this beautiful show house, the Swan Ridge show house that you see there to the left. The boardwalk that we built connects this to a little downtown village area. And the whole idea is to make this like an old English village. So these architects had an idea in mind what they wanted the boardwalk to look like to match that theme. And they worked with James York, our owner here, and we came up with this gorgeous design that fit in so very, very well. And this is what York Bridge can bring to the table, this type of architectural theme. And here you see a perfect example of it.
Yes, it's just beautiful with the lanterns and the custom handrail and the infills there. If we want to bring the poll question back up, let's see what you guys thought was the most important on it. Okay, look at that. Landmark structure and of course practical need, followed by your architectural theme and the community pride and identity. Looks like marketing and social media attention. Those might be secondary in the process, but still nice to have, I'm sure. So thank you very much for participating in the poll. Yep. And we have 3 projects, Titus, that we want to get to that kind of nicely illustrate these 5 points. And I think with the 3 of them, each one of them will combine at least 2 of these 5 points into the project, if not more.
Julie, you've chosen 3 great examples. I'm excited to talk about each one of them, the background and the bridges we built. Going to be interesting.
Yep. So let's stay in the Atlanta area. This is northwest of Atlanta. This is in Chamblee, Georgia. We're going to talk about Parkview on Peachtree. And first, let's look at where it's located, because it looks like the number 1 answer was landmark structure. And of course, where do you want to put a landmark structure, Titus?
Well, you want to put it in a highly visible area.
Absolutely. And as you can see here, this is the intersection of Claremont Road and Peachtree Industrial Boulevard that goes, that's about 13 miles northwest of downtown Atlanta. Highly, highly trafficked area. Of course, over on the top left, that's a Walmart. So of course, everybody's there shopping. You have the Parkview on Peachtree is the mixed use development down there in the bottom right. Of course, you also have Keswick Park, which is down there in the lower part. That's the local community of Chamblee bringing their kids to softball and baseball. And of course, you have a pedestrian trail that goes straight under the bridge, and it's part of the rail trail system.
You know,
and
Julie,
it's highly
you're talking about location, and this aerial is a good indication of where this project is located. And this is really an older section of town. And there was an old strip shopping center over there on the right, and the ground on the left was all undeveloped. And J.R. Conley, the developer, bought this land with the idea of developing it. But location. It was all about where it was located, such a highly traveled, visible area.
Yeah, and speaking of J.R. Conley, he's very intelligent design, in that he wanted to pay historical homage to the city of Chamblee. And as you can see here in the pictures, in these inspirational pictures, it was all about the railroad.
Chamblee is an old railroad town, isn't it, Julie? And matter of fact, the symbol of the city that you see up there in the top right is a locomotive. So J.R. Connolly had the idea, he's the developer, the owner of the land. He had the idea for this development, but he wanted to keep the historical theme of the railroad. And there's all kind of railroad tracks that run through there. So he wanted a bridge. He needed a bridge to connect two sections together. And so we were able to come up with a design that kept that homage.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the rendering at the top that we came up with. And he actually incorporated that rendering, our design, into his own rendering, which then he took around to the city of Chambly and to the officials there. And he incorporated all of those architectural themes. Remember, we talked about that being an important aspect of what you guys are looking for in a crossing. You can see there on the bottom right that same theme into the industrial style of the buildings. So we worked with them to make sure that the bridge became a central feature to their development.
You know, Julie, J.R. Connolly and Amy Wells, whom we also work with on the project, told me that they nearly wore out that picture board of our conceptual drawing. They took and blew it up, made a big board, and they carried it to all of the city meetings and the public hearings that they had to go through for 2 years, and they nearly wore it out. But do you know what? They showed the intent of the bridge in the middle of this crossing, and it helped to get public interest and approval for the project. He said the people loved it, and it turned out very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a side note on that, because we can get involved so early in the process, because we are custom design build, that's definitely an advantage to you, our clients, to call us as soon as possible. You know, when you call us at the beginning stages and you say, I think I might have a crossing need, well, we can definitely jump in and show you what we can offer. And instead of waiting until the bid process or waiting until the later phases of the planning process, there's actually a great webinar on that Rachel Marshall, our one of our in-house design experts, she actually did one a couple of months ago on designing with YBC, and you can go more in depth into that process with her in our recorded webinar. But yes, getting back to Parkview on Peachtree, here's a great profile shot. You can see the pedestrian walkway underneath, and of course, the beautiful embellishments of the bridge itself.
Well, you saw in the previous picture that there's two segments of this mixed-use development. On the one side, you've got residential. On the other side, you've got retail and office going on. And they had to cross over this trail that connected to Keswick Park and then brought them up to the road. And eventually you could walk all the way and connect into the Atlanta Beltway system. By the way, Julie, have you ever been on that Atlanta Beltway?
I have. Yes, I am actually from Atlanta, Titus.
From Atlanta. Are you really?
I am. You knew that.
Of course, we knew that. Yes, indeed. So the idea was to be able to keep the pedestrian access available and not cut it off. So there was a practical need for a vehicular bridge. You needed to connect these two sections via a road and elevate it up over the trail. We came up with this particular design to fit the need, but then we made it special, a legacy design with all of these special elements that you see.
Yes, and of course, what good would a legacy timber bridge design if it didn't last, Titus? So, you know, we don't just put a bridge in place and use shabby materials and a bad design. Of course, we're going to put a 75-year design life on this bridge.
I've actually walked on this sidewalk underneath and looked up, and it's amazing, Julie, when you look up and see the massive timbers of these vehicular bridges that we build. The piling, you see the finishes on the piling, the acrylic polymer to help protect. And this is true of all of the exposed wood. So you have this legacy design that mimics an old steel railroad truss bridge, though it was all built out of timber. And it's beautiful. It matches the theme of the entire development. It fits in, it serves a practical need. It just hits every button and bell we've been talking about, Julie.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's case study number one. Now let's move on to Dallas, Texas, to the Hilton Anatole, Hilton Anatole Hotel. If you've been to this hotel, I guarantee there's somebody in the chat who's been here. If you can chat me and tell me, hey, I've been here, we'd love to hear from you. This is actually the rendering that was produced for the Jade Waters Aquatic Water Park.
This Hilton Anatole is a beautiful hotel, Julie. It was actually built in 1983. It's a conference center. It has over 1,600 rooms. And you can see how that they ended up wanting to build a special water park. And this was all done in 2014. They added this Jade Water Park as part of the Hilton Anatole.
Yeah, and as you can see on the rendering, there are a couple of places that were necessary to cross over the lazy river. So they did have a practical need for the service people as well as the guests to cross over and enjoy the water park.
When you have a water park, you normally always have a lazy river. I bet you and your kids have floated down a lazy river before, Julie.
Absolutely. Yep.
But that means that when you have a lazy river, you're cutting off part of the interior land. And so to be able to access it, you got to have bridges over the lazy river to be able to access that land. And that's what you saw earlier.
Mm-hmm. But instead of just focusing in on the practical need, the Hilton Anatole Hotel, which houses the Crow Collection, which is an Asian inspired, just lots of cultural infusion from all over Asia, from China to Japan and Korea and Thailand. They collected all kinds of art, sculptures, paintings from all over. And they really wanted to infuse that into the Jade Waters Water Park. So as you can see here, you can see these beautiful reds that pop, these ornamental post caps and the arches. Of course, you can see the actual picture of jade. And what color is it?
Well, you got your greens and your burnt oranges and reds going on. And the entire hotel conference center and even the rooms have this Eastern Asian design to them, and the water park carried that out as well. And they have all these art pieces like Julie just mentioned in the hotel as well as out in this water park area. And so when you're talking about this type of theme, then obviously you want to bring those same design concepts and colors into the bridges.
Mm-hmm. And so the result is as you can see here, the first piece of one of 3 bridges that we built at Jade Waters is our accessibility bridge. It is ADA compliant, lovely curve on it, lovely color palette.
Yes, what a beautiful design to this bridge. You can see why we talk about legacy designs here at York Bridge. These are far more than just a plain wooden bridge. You can see how that we brought in the colors that match the theme of that Eastern Asian theme. You can see in the first bridge, as Julie mentioned, this is what's called the accessible bridge because it's accessible to get to the interior over the lazy river by anybody. It's wide enough, it's not too steep. It has a grab rail if people need that. And what a beautiful bridge design that fits so well into that theme.
And even if you notice the little details on the post caps, what does it resemble, Titus?
There you go. It looks like some of those temples that they have over in the Orient.
Absolutely. So the second bridge is the service bridge. As you can see, some of the same color palettes and the post cap designs, but look at those lovely glue lambs.
Well, very interesting bridge. Now, this bridge has stairs to it where the other one did not. But the purpose was there's times that people that work there, service people, need to get to the interior part and maybe serve food and drinks to the people that are laying out there. So they had their own bridge that they could get over and back more quickly than doing the access bridge. But you can see the same colors are utilized, a similar design, and you can see the beautiful glue laminated beam with the arch that gives this such a legacy great design.
And can you imagine floating down the lazy river underneath this bridge and enjoying the view?
It'd be beautiful, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. So our final crowning piece is our moon bridge, probably less of a practical need, but it's still 85 pounds per foot as far as capacity, loading capacity. So you actually can climb over it. However, they've decided that that's not a good idea. It's just for ornamental purposes. But that lovely red, that pop of red in there, and those post caps, just amazing.
Timber bridge as a piece of art.
Yes, absolutely.
Julie, you said now this was the moon bridge. Now we have to tell them why it's the moon bridge.
Why it's the moon bridge. As you can see in this picture, the reflection on the water, they were built over water, and the reflection on the water actually completed the arch and turned it into a moon. So as the moonlight would hit the structure in a Japanese garden, it would create that perfect circle in the moonlight. So that's why they call it a moon bridge.
What a wonderful design and concept. And again, back to that whole cultural historical theme for the hotel and the Jade Water Resort Park. Beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Yes, yes. And James York spent a lot of time doing some research to get the style of this project just right, to get the design, specifically the design of this bridge just right. And the results are just amazing.
I bet this is beautiful at night too.
Absolutely. Well, and speaking of marketing, I know that may not have been the most important selection on our poll, but this is an example of when it's important to get that great marketing piece to garner that social media attention, because then you see it. If you Google the Hilton Anatole Hotel, what pops up first, Titus, in the images? That moon bridge will pop up.
There you go. You want to make reservations? Look what you're going to see. Very first thing. You can see the other bridges in the background, but there to the right, there in that beautiful, that's that moon bridge. What
Absolutely.
Great marketing.
Yep. And as far as a landmark structure, you guys said that that was important. Well, it definitely is. Just know that if your kids go there, and they will remember that big red bridge. If they're anything like my children, they will have climbed on it, and I would have told them no several times. But
several times,
they will definitely remember, and you'll say, "Let's go back to that." You may not even remember the name of it, but you may say, "Let's go back to that place that has the big red arch bridge in it." So,
and again, this is very unique and very special. Again, it just shows the talents, the ability that York Bridge has to come up with these legacy designs for any type of project.
Absolutely. Well, we still have one more case study to look at. Of course, we can't talk about legacy timber bridges without talking about covered bridges, right? That's what we do best.
Of course, they're landmarks.
Absolutely. So we're going to go over to Lewis, Delaware, over on the East Coast. And covered bridge trails originally started out, the development was called Mayflower Trails. So there are a couple of factors that where they ended up changing the name. Of course, you can see here this wetland. It was a crossing challenge. Of course, they had a practical need for a bridge here.
This is a vehicular bridge, Julie. And if we could see a greater aerial, you could see on the left and on the right of the bridge that there are two sections of land where they're building this residential development, and they needed to connect the two via a road, but you got a wetland. You had to cross over in a stream. So they needed a vehicular bridge to get over the wetland, and we were able to design and build that. So the practical need is there, and we solved that, but there's a whole lot more going on there.
Yeah, they hadn't originally thought of a covered bridge, and they just looked at the practical need, and for they had several different factors led them to do a single lane. So it, for it not to become this, oh boy, I got to wait for traffic, they said, you know what, let's turn it into this iconic structure that people enjoy going across. Maybe they don't mind waiting for the next person to come. So you add this beautiful covered section to it in the true York timber bridge style. You'll never see anything like it. It's uniquely a York design.
Well, it's a beautiful design. And you know, Julie, I heard a little rumor, I don't know if it's true or not, that John York, one of our senior bridge consultants here, worked with Preston Shell of the Shell brothers. He was the developer, the owner of the land. And Preston wanted something iconic and special and legacy and something that would draw attention to his development. It may well have been John York that mentioned the idea of a covered timber bridge.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned earlier, the original name was Mayflower Trails. And then when the bridge came about, they changed the name.
Yep, it's yet another example of why it's important to get York Bridge concepts involved early in the process, because we can be influential and helpful in helping you with your vision and your concept. So the earlier we are in your project, the more options you'll get, and the more likely you'll get the result that you want.
Julie, Lewis, Delaware is an interesting place. It's in Sussex County. We have built a lot of bridges in the county, and this is along the coast of Delaware. Lewis is a charming little town. Julie, have you ever been to Lewis, Delaware?
I have not.
It's beautiful. You need to get the kids and Josh and go there one of these days. It's full of specialty shops and fine dining. They've got great beaches there and nature trails. It's all about enjoying nature in this charming little town. And you can see how that this timber bridge, the legacy timber bridge, covered bridge, fits into that theme of the overall town and this particular development. And notice how, Julie, that the sides of the bridge are open so that people driving through can see out, even though they're driving through a covered timber bridge. What a wonderful legacy design for this crossing.
Yes, definitely a focal point of the community, and a great example of how you can turn a challenge into a special opportunity like this. So it generates, if we're going back to our 5 points, definitely it's generating community pride and identity, but also creating a strong brand image. It's a selling point. People go to look for an active adult community on the East Coast, and they see this wonderful community called Covered Bridge Trails, and look, they have this awesome bridge there, and it definitely piques the interest and gets a lot more exposure for people looking.
How that we're seeing it in several different places being marketed this way. Lennar is actually the one building homes in there, and you can see how that they even have it on their website as well. So it definitely draws attention and fits into the beauty of the nature.
Absolutely. In conclusion, we have some design resources, because if you want to go ahead and get started and start looking through some resources on our website, you can go to ybc.com/timber-bridge-designs. That's also in the chat. So if you want to click directly through there, we have load capacity diagrams, truck loading diagrams, and we have use illustrations. We do have some CAD files. They are generic CAD files, and also some generic span drawings, all of our project cut sheets. You can also look up guardrail, handrail designs, all of the different special customizable items that are on our bridges that we can work into your design. You can go ahead and get started looking at that. Also, if you get involved into our planning process, our collaboration process, we do have our 2 in-house design experts, Rachel Marshall. She has lots of experience with YBC and some great credentials behind her name. She's definitely a great resource. And of course, James York, our YBC president, he's basically the inventor of Desero Design, the special process of how we design timber bridges. Of course, 36 plus years in the industry. And he's also a commercial developer. So he, in fact, does have a legacy York timber bridge on his commercial property. So who better?
James, as the founder of York Bridge and the owner, is just brilliant. And he's still involved in the design process. Rachel, but the two of them together, not only do they have the ability to come up with things that are creative and stylistic, but also they're practical, that can really be built out of timber. And when you bring in York Bridge on a project, this is what you're getting, all these years of experience and the brilliance of these two to help out with these legacy designs. Yes, bridges do have a functional purpose and we serve that, but we take it to the next level with a legacy York timber bridge.
Absolutely. So Titus, thank you so much for joining me on this little legacy journey today.
You're welcome. It's been fun.
Yes, it has. So we also want to invite everyone to our next webinar. It's going to be how to maximize the lifespan of a timber bridge. We will be doing that one on October 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. We will still be on Daylight Savings Time then. And of course, you want to look at any of the recordings of any of our previous webinars this year. You can go to ybc.com/webinars. The link will be in the chat, so you can click straight through. You can view any of the recordings there. And this presentation is not accredited. However, if you would like to get a certificate of completion for your records, you can always email me, jledbetter@ybc.com. I will be glad to provide that for you. So at this time, I'm going to look through the questions. And if you have any that you're thinking about putting in there, we have the Q&A. You're welcome to type it in and we'll get to it. Shoba, it says, how many useful life years shall we consider for the life cycle cost analysis of a timber bridge? What do you think, Titus?
Well, our vehicular bridges do carry a 75-year design life to them.
Yep. And I think she followed up with, as far as repair for substructure and superstructure, what is, I guess what she's asking overall is, what does the maintenance cost look like on this?
You know, our next webinar, Julie, we're going to get into this a little bit more in detail. All bridges have maintenance. The idea is you want to maintain the bridge. Typically, the substructure of the bridge, when we say 75-year design life, that's what we're talking about. That substructure should be able to last that length of time. Over that course of time, yes, some of the superstructure, the top of the bridge, some of those parts may need to be replaced, but really the key is keeping the sealants and the finishes on them, and those bridges will be able to achieve that design life.
And then factoring in inspections as well. There's AASHTO standards on when you should have your bridge inspected, which we will get into more of in the October 20th webinar. So good questions, Shoba. Thank you. Let's see. Do we have any other questions in here? I'm looking through the chat. Please alert me if I'm missing your question. Yeah, I think we have, let's see. We did have somebody raise their hand, but it looks like they put it down. So if anybody else, if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you for joining us today. And I hope to see you on October 20th. Email me if you have any questions at all. And thank you very much. Have a great day.